Hi, my name is Mrs. Alekovich. I'm going to be the South Carolina Whitmer School Photography Club sponsor. I'm super excited to be starting this club. The first thing we're going to do is we're just going to get to know each other. You're going to post a picture, anything that you've taken, that you have things that you enjoy, and introduce yourself, and we can all get to know each other. Read more about that in your teacher message and how to do that. I'm not really good with making videos. I'm really good with still photography. I have a degree in photojournalism. I love pictures. So this is all new to me. There probably won't be a lot of videos of me talking to you in the camera. But I thought it might be a good idea or a way for you to get to know me. So I shoot pictures with a Nikon camera. And I think the best thing to do is to just get to know your camera. So we're going to go over in this video all of the buttons and what they do and some general functions, and then we'll have, an assignment at the end that you can post using the things that you learned. So most of my videos are probably going to be slideshows of pictures that I've taken illustrating the concepts that we want to work on during the month. If you have any questions or thoughts or ways to make videos better, definitely send them to me in the teacher message, and we will have so much fun this year taking lots of pictures and learning to be better photographers. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is just get to know our cameras and what they can do and what they're capable of. And the thing we want you to be able to do is to have a camera that you can adjust your shutter, your aperture, and your ISO. These things control the amount of light getting in and out of your camera, and that allows you to be creative with your pictures. Because what you want to do is be able to control the exposure. The exposure is the amount of light getting into the camera. Because of course we all want those perfectly exposed pictures with just the right amount of light. Your camera has settings on it that do different things to control the amount of light going in and out of the camera to give you that perfectly exposed picture, and all of the different buttons do different things. So this lesson we're just going to go over some of the basic features of your camera. Of course, you've got your on-off button. Make sure you can turn it off, but your camera should have some sort of dial. Usually it's a dial on Canon and Nikon. That has on one side a set of semi-automatic features that you can work with, and then a set of manual features that you can work with. So I'm going to start with where it says guide and then work my way around. So for example, if you were setting your camera on the guide mode just walks you through basically features in the camera like cropping, adjusting the saturation. It's basically an online user manual for the camera. This is how if you open up the camera, it's usually set to guide. So then if you flip it and go to auto, or usually it's a green on the dial, this is your point and shoot mode. This is going to be completely automatic. This is if you were to have a camera phone. It does everything for you. And this is not a bad mode to use and to play around with to get used to your camera, how to hold it, composition. You don't have to think about exposure. It's doing all the exposure for you. Moving down, you're going to have a feature. You can flip it to where it looks like a lightning bolt inside of a circle with an X through it. Basically, this disables your flash, so you can still take perfectly exposed pictures without the flash on, and it's doing all the metering for you. It's reading the light and then taking out the flash. So for example, when you might use this mode would be if you're in a museum and it says no flash photography, but you still want to take a picture, you can put it into this mode, take your picture, and the flash won't go off. The next is what looks like a woman, and she's got a hat on. This is for if you wanted to take portraits. It's going to blur out your background. It will increase your saturation, so it makes your colors a little bit bolder. It's going to adjust for your skin tone. It's shooting with, and we'll talk about this and how to do this to yourself, it's going to shoot with a large aperture, and that large aperture gives you that blurry background. So if you're taking a picture of a person. The next one is going to be if you're taking pictures of landscapes and you want everything to be in focus from front to back. You want your picture to be in focus. So again, it's going to be sort of an aperture priority. It's going to close down your aperture and it'll let everything to be in focus. However, things that you need to be thinking about when you use this particular mode is that in landscape mode, it's going to put priority on giving you a small aperture so that everything can be in focus, but that means that your shutter speeds might be really slow, and so you're going to need to pay attention to that because that's where you get movement and things become blurry. Usually people shoot with a tripod so that perhaps the camera is really still. The next one is it's supposed to be a child. You'll have a setting that allows you to shoot for children. Children are usually active, so it's going to have pretty high shutter speed so that they can capture the child in motion. It'll also adjust for skin tones and saturation. The next one after child looks like a man in motion. This is for your sports. Again, it's going even further and for like the fastest shutter speeds that you can possibly get. So it's putting a lot of emphasis on really fast shutter speeds so that you can stop the motion, like if you have someone running and you want to capture them and stop it. The next one is a flower, and this is sometimes a little bit confusing. It's called the macro mode. It does not actually increase the length of your lens or make things closer. It's just adjusting for exposure. All of these things on this dial are adjusting for the amount of light. The only thing that can change your closeness is going to be getting and using different lenses, so that you'd actually need to get a macro lens. But what the macro function does is it's going to give you a small aperture so that you can have lots of things in focus, because if you're taking pictures of things really, really close up, you want to get as much in focus as you can. But again, it's going to give you pretty low shutter speed, so you want to use a tripod. The next one is a box with a person inside of it, and this is your night portraitures. So what it does is it gives you really long shutter speeds so that you can get in lots of ambient light. And then effects, it just tells you, it kind of puts some things that usually you do post-production, like after you've taken the picture. You can actually do it while you're taking the picture. So for example, if you are taking pictures outside at night, you can, instead of having your lights be circles, you can make them be like star pricks and just different effects that you can do, and it walks you through it while you take the picture if you put it on effects. These are your these are your automatic features. It's doing all the metering for you. You really don't have to, you can't change anything. It's choosing these things for you. And these are good features to use. However, most of the time when I shoot, I'm shooting inside what's called the manual or semi-manual modes, which are M, A, S, and P. And that's where if you want a lot of creativity and a lot of ability to choose what the camera is doing, you want to shoot on M, A, S, or P. So P stands for Program Auto. Actually, I never shoot on P, but it gives you a list of combinations. It gives you a list of shutter speeds and apertures, and you can choose from those. And to me, it makes life a lot more complicated. Like, to me, it's easier to shoot on the portrait lady or the landscape or the child than to actually to put it in P and to look at F5 with a shutter speed of 60. But some people like to do it that way. S is shutter priority. Shutter priority means that you get to pick what you want your shutter speed to be. And you can change the shutter speed by using the dial on the back. You can adjust your shutter speed. So if I'm shooting, let's say, a basketball game, I can put it in shutter priority and I can choose a really fast shutter. Or then if I walk outside and I don't need it to be capturing things stop action, I can slow down my shutter speed. Aperture means that I choose the aperture, so I can choose how much I want in focus and how much I don't want in focus. And then manual means that you're controlling everything. You're controlling your aperture, you're controlling your shutter, and you're controlling your ISO. Most photographers say that you know how to shoot in manual and that makes you a real photographer. I don't necessarily believe that because to me, there are a lot of ways to get the best picture that you possibly want without having to shoot in manual, as long as you know how to use the different features. A and S, and then changing the ISO yourself, are generally the most used functions of professional photographers. But knowing how to change what the different symbols mean on your dial and how they control the light and what they do is really important. It's your first step. Every camera, the pictures or the icons are going to be different, like might look different. Like your lady might look a little bit different, or your child might look a little bit different, but you're going to have some sort of variation on this dial. You might have on your camera, it might not be A, it might be AV, or it might be TV, but you'll have some sort of variation of shutter control, aperture control, and manual.